Hello there, and welcome to tonight's reading in association with Bealtaine at Home, the online book club of the Bealtaine Festival for 2020. Next week, instead of the scheduled Tuesday and Thursday readings, I'll be having a live conversation with Mia Gallagher on Friday, the 29th of May, starting at about 6:30 and lasting probably for about 45 or 50 minutes. So please join us then. So this is the last of the longer extracts that I'll be reading to you. Next week's interview will be part conversation with just a short reading. So thank you for people who have messaged me, who have been in touch. And tonight's reading has been chosen in response to a message from somebody who was wondering about those moments in our lives when something happens, which makes our life begin to take a new direction, even though we mightn't realize it at the time. So this extract is from 1973, and it's about Callista, who's living in Cyprus with her husband, Alexandros. It's not a happy marriage. It's no spoiler to say that. And there are 6 people around a table in her home. Her husband, Alexandros, has wanted to have a dinner party for some people that he feels can help him in his business. He wants people who are influential. He only wants to know people who can help him advance in his career. So Callista's been a little bit nervous about this because Alexandros is quite hard to please. So this is the night of the dinner party. Callista looks beautiful and she knows it. She wears a long sky blue dress with a daring neckline, a dress that emphasizes the new curves that baby Omiros has brought along with him. She wears her dark hair up, a gold rope around her neck, matching earrings and gold-colored sandals. Alexandros smiles his approval when he sees her. "You are beautiful," he says. "You will be the most beautiful woman in the room." It's over the main course that things begin to go wrong. The Californian women, Cindy and Zoe, are by now loud with wine. They are criticizing Cypriot men, talking over one another, arguing with their husbands about something called women's lib. Callista has no idea what they're talking about. Even the language they speak is not familiar to her. She knows each discrete word, of course, but she cannot follow the conversation. The context is missing. Cindy and Zoe are throwing around words like oppression, patriarchy, equality, liberation. Callista is worried. One half glance at Alexandros shows her that her husband is not pleased. She can feel the turn the evening is taking. Excuse me. She can sense it in the atoms of air around her. The top of her head begins to thrum, faintly but persistently, always a bad sign, her own internal thunder. She tries to shift the evening's focus, but it feels hopeless, like trying to stop the tide coming in. "God," says one of the women, who one calls Cindy, except that it sounds to Callista like "Gad." "I think it's just disgusting the way Cypriot women serve their men. I mean, it's 1973 and this is still such a traditional society. I keep telling Charlie I don't know if I'll ever adjust." She blows a thin stream of smoke upwards and keeps pulling at her blonde hair with one hand. Callista glances in Charalambos' direction and sees him grimace. Charlie. Her eyes meet Alexandros' fleetingly, and she can tell that his anger is growing. "Please," she prays silently. "Please let him be mad at her, at them, and not at me. Please." Zoe's husband, Evagoras, jumps into the conversation, protesting, and Callista feels immediately grateful. He is funny, Evagoras, and he manages to make the 2 women laugh. "We've had plenty of feisty women over the years in these parts," he says. "Look at Helen of Troy, at Clytemnestra, And Cassandra, for starters. You can't say that women here are under the thumbs of men. Far from it. Callista's not so sure about that. She recalls a story she once read about Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, who seduced Clytemnestra, killed her children, abandoned her in order to fight a war that lasted 10 years, and then carried home another woman as a prize. It seems to Callista that the women in that tale did not get much opportunity to be feisty. Not until they became hell-bent on revenge. Then it was a different story. Callista cannot hear any longer what Cindy and Zoe are shouting in reply because her heart has begun to speed up. All she can hear is the bluntness of the blood pounding in her ears. The evening has begun to take that particular turn, and Callista is frightened. Don't you agree, Callista? Evagoras is saying, looking kindly in her direction. I'm sure you'll settle in just as I did, Callista says, smiling at her guests. She hopes that her contribution is bland enough, flexible enough, so that it can mold itself around whatever it is the Californian women have just said. Instead, there is a short, strained silence before Charalambos and Evagoras begin speaking again, this time about business opportunities in Cyprus. It is clear that they have changed the conversation because of her. Callista catches Cindy's surprised glance. She sees Zoe make a face, and she feels Alexandros' eyes burn into hers. Mirophora enters the dining room and begins to clear plates. Callista chooses her moment to escape. She excuses herself and murmurs about seeing to dessert and Irish coffees. When she closes the door behind her, she leans against it for a moment just to catch her breath. Then she hurries to the sink, turns on the cold water and allows it to flow over her wrists, willing the force of the water to calm the heady racing of her pulse. She knows that the evening is over. All she has to do now is endure the agony of waiting until it ends. When Alexandros closes the door behind their guests, Callista says quickly, "The baby is awake. I'm going up to him before he disturbs Imogen." Alexandros nods curtly, and Callista flees. Omiros' cries would never wake Imogen. She sleeps like the dead. But either Alexandros doesn't know this or he chooses to ignore his wife's fiction. It gives Callista time to gather her forces, time to think about how to handle what will inevitably come next. She changes Omiros and settles him for the night. She steps into Imogen's room and pulls the sheet out from under the tangle of her daughter's sturdy legs. Then she goes slowly back downstairs. Even though Callista expects it, she doesn't see it coming. Alexandros' fist catches her on the left side of her jaw, sends her reeling across the living room until she crashes into the arm of the sofa and falls to her knees, stunned by the suddenness of it all. Then, oddly, she is coming to standing again with no effort of her own. A burning sensation across her scalp tells her that Alexandros has her by the hair. He pulls her up off her knees, makes her stand, facing him. His face is much too close to hers. Callista flinches, pulls back from him. She can smell his breath, a mix of garlic and wine and coffee. "What is wrong with you?" he asks. His tone is soft, reasonable, as though he's making a genuine inquiry, a thoughtful one. Callista wonders where Mirophora is, but it's as though Alexandros can read her mind at times like this. "I sent Mirophora home. I told her she was looking tired, that she could come back and clean up in the morning." Slowly, deliberately, Alexandros lets her go. He chooses and lights a cigar. Callista waits as he goes through the whole long ritual while the tension in the room grows like a headache. Alexandros draws on the cigar, rolling it thoughtfully between his fingers. Then he blows a cloud of smoke into Callista's face. But something about tonight has made Callista defiant. There is nothing wrong with me, Alexandros. Why are you doing this to me? Her husband looks at her as though he cannot believe what she has asked him. Why? He says. He grabs her hair again, more fiercely this time. Why? When you make me look stupid in front of our guests? When you cannot even follow a simple conversation in English? It is you who are doing this to me. The rhythm of Alexandros' speech suddenly reminded Callista of her mother, of Maria Luisa's emphases, of her insistence on the polish, on the practice of social skills, as though nothing were more important than surface. These men are necessary to me, Alexandros says. Then he pushes Callista away from him. His face is filled with disgust. Get away from me, he says. You have made any kind of relationship impossible. Callista's whole body feels filled with too much substance. It is difficult to carry it with her up the stairs. She is not sure whether she will manage to reach the bedroom before her legs give way. She needs to soak a towel in cold water to stop her face from swelling. Her hair will only cover so much. And Callista is not sure what Alexandros means. His words go round and round inside her throbbing head. Is a relationship with these necessary men made impossible by her, Callista? Or has she made any relationship between herself and Alexandros impossible? Callista no longer knows. Right now, tonight, she no longer cares. Okay, and that's it for this evening. Thank you very much for your company throughout these weeks. And I hope that you will tune in again on Friday the 29th for my live streaming conversation with Mia Gallagher about the novel The Years That Followed. Thanks to Dunne for hosting us. Thanks to Mia for the choice of books that she has made. And thanks to you for listening. In the meantime, stay well and stay safe. Bye for now.